Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Ramadan reminders. And a small 15 minutes reminder about the things that concern us during this month of Ramadan. Today we are going to talk about the Nafs. The Nafs is a well-known, well-spoken affair of mankind, sometimes referred as the soul, sometimes referred as the ego, some in various ways. Often presented as an enemy that we have to fight. Often presented as a problem. And it is indeed a problem, but it's worth understanding what is the meaning of it, and especially in this month of Ramadan. During this month of Ramadan, it is being said that the Nafs gets discipline, because a month is a month of discipline. And so it becomes purified at the end of the month. It is worth understanding, therefore, what is this purification and what is intended. Does the month of Ramadan and the fasting of Ramadan help us in dealing with the Nafs? First of all, you have to know that the Nafs has a tendency, is the part of us that has a tendency to attach itself to the world of the Nafs. And while the heart has a tendency to lean towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so here it is presented as a conflict that we have to resolve. But first of all, it requires a little bit more understanding of the Nafs. The best definition I heard about the Nafs is the one given by Muli al-Arabi Darkawi, when he says, you want to understand what the Nafs is, then open your eyes. Everything that you see, everything you understand in what you see, this is the Nafs. So imagine the task of fighting against that. It's a lot more than fighting against the things that we conceive as errors, problems, etc. The Nafs encapsulates every way in which we perceive the world from the perspective of I am perceiving the world. The world comes to us through the Nafs. It's a sum of everything we perceive and the way we interpret it. That's why in the understanding of the Nafs and the understanding of how we sense the world, we say there's not only 5 senses, but there's a 6th one that adds to the collection, and this is a reason itself. So it's not only the things how we perceive the world that comes to us according to our condition, but also how we interpret it. So this is the glue that we put on all the data that reveals to us the world as it is. And this is the activity of the Nafs. That's what the Nafs do. In as much as this is centered around me observing, then that perspective is a world that is tame, or is measured, or is ruled by we as the observers. And that's what the Nafs do. That is problematic simply because that's not reality. Reality is not our observation of the world, but reality is something far, far different that entails how Allah observes the world. That includes us. And in changing from being the observer to being the observed, there is a big change. This is the science of Ihsan, and this is why Sufism has been often spoken as the science of Ihsan. So what is in that we can benefit from, and where does it take us? There is a beautiful ayat of Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the Surah 89 and the verses 27 to 30, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O tranquil Nafs, return to your Lord, well pleased and well pleasing. Enter among my servants and enter my paradise. In this statement, something has been said about the Nafs that almost resolves or defines its condition. It says about a tranquil, a nafs that has been tamed, that is well pleased and well pleasing. So it's about the condition of the nafs. So the nafs is not in itself immobile, it's not solid, but is fluid. It changes. And the capacity of changing of the nafs is at the very heart of the very notion of you can purify it, otherwise you're stuck with it. What is the purifying and what acts that you have to undertake in order to achieve that purity? Well, it's very well expressed with well pleased and well pleasing. And that means that there is a purpose for the nafs. And if the nafs acquires this purpose, which is to be pleased, to be satisfied, to be thankful, then you train your heart into this condition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls to be a tranquil, a quiet, please, a trained nafs. And the training of the nafs is in itself the purification, because then it says, you enter among my servants and you enter my paradise. So pleased, to have a nafs that is pleased, is the training itself. What you are training your nafs against is a simple sense of attachment. But the sense of attachment is everything that we recall as an observation of the world, including the observation we have of ourselves, how we see ourselves, and on the basis of how we judge ourselves, then you can define how the state of the nafs is, without considering that you are not in a position to judge anything, or even to judge yourself in particular. It's very difficult to judge yourself from the nafs, so you need a different perspective, a different height from where you look at yourself. You want to see your nafs? Then don't look at it from your eyes, but look at it from the eyes of Allah. A different picture appears. To be able to put yourself into that condition, that's the very condition of taqwa, whereby you are not being measured according to your own measure, but you are measured according to the measure of Allah. Then everything changes. You can change so dramatically, so that you can turn the nafs from dictating you to a nafs that you dictate to. So this is, in the language of Sufism, this is the idea of mastering the nafs. Either you are mastered by the nafs or you master the nafs. And there is nothing in between. Mastering the nafs. So that means the very process of training. That you can train your nafs, but it becomes impossible from the nafs itself. That's why nothing of this can happen without taqwa, without the feeling taking shade, taking cover from yourself by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the meaning of Allah is watching you. The opinion that matters is the opinion that has of you. Allah has of you, not the one that you have of yourself. Everything changes. There are several ways in which you can speak about it. Dhikr is one of them. To do dhikr of Allah, to remember Allah so Allah remembers you. A good way of remembering Allah is by means of saying to yourself, Allah is in charge. Allah is my Lord. He is my master. And I am here to serve His commands. Love of Allah, which is love of the commands of Allah. And that alters the way in which you perceive the world. Now, you can look at the world in terms of the things that you can do, the things that you can observe, and the things that you can act upon. Or you can look at the world in terms of what Allah is commanding you to do. It's a big, big difference. Huge. How quickly you can sense it. You can sense it so fast and so deeply that it is mind-blowing. You can look at the problems that afflict you, or you can look at how you can help other people who are inflicted by problems. You can see yourself in terms of the power that you have of your hands and how this brings the world to you. Or you can see how Allah can change the world by means of His power, not your power. What you have to do then is to submit to the power of Allah so that you can annihilate your power and you can borrow His power. The borrowing of His power is a way of saying that our strength, our capacity, our observation, it depends not on what we understand, but what Allah understands. What is the difference? Huge. As in completely nothing to do with each other. These are two different worlds. Overcoming your limitations is expanding your own capacities, your attributes, which now they become borrowed attributes. You can concern yourself with the things that you can do within a given environment, which is the one in which we live. And you have problems here, you have things to resolve here, etc., etc. You're looking at your hands to define the Nafs. That is, the world as it, you look around and everything you see, this is your Nafs. A mirror of yourself. So you want to understand your Nafs, yes, all you have to do is to open the eyes. But you can put in this sight things that are not immediately within the reach of your hand. You could, for example, concern yourself with one of the poorest countries in Africa, let's say Burkina Faso. And you can say, this is my concern. And this is, I want to help. And you can give them good advice in terms of the things that you already know. Now, whether you're capable of answering this question of this is a concern too big for you, etc., this is a matter of your own knowledge. But what is important is to acknowledge that within that scope, you have already changed. That when you say my concern is the concern of other people, you have said two things. That they are embedded in that observation. Number one, that you are pleased with yourself. So in other words, that you are in a condition of thanks Allah for what I have. And now I can I concern myself with pleasing, that I am rahmah to the people. And I say, how can I help people that they live in conditions infinitely worse than mine? Extraordinary. Extraordinary only for the thinking man, for the man who has akal. So here the question is, in which way your heart purifies when you undertake something beyond the scope of your hands? How do you change? How do your nafs change in the process of concerning yourself not with your affairs, but with the affairs of people who are in a worse condition than yours? It takes few seconds to realize the changes. All you have to do is to concern yourself in pleasing, in giving rahmah to the people who are in worse condition than you, in order to see the changes in yourself. When you change yourself, you have purified the nafs. The nafs is close to you, and so is the purification. The purification is an instant in which you find satisfied and you offer your satisfaction to the people who are in need of you. So use this month of Ramadan to purify your nafs. Come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and realize that the world before you is infinitely larger than the things that you can do with it, because it is part of the world that Allah is building all the time. Purify your nafs. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.